An explosive secret audio has been uncovered involving high-ranking Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, or the DCCC, leadership threatening a candidate running in a 2018 election, admitting they are rigging the vote. Representative Steny Hoyer and Representative Nancy Pelosi are also on record in this scheme meant to get a majority Democratic House of Representatives to impeach President Donald Trump inevitably. Every American needs to hear this shocking audio before it's too late. And according to this article, ladies and gentlemen, this is just one small piece happening in Colorado, and it's probably a narrative happening all over the country. This article reports that has uncovered a secret audio tape of Representative Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House of Representatives, threatening a candidate running for office in Colorado's 6th congressional district. Now, I know that might seem small and minute, but this audio is incredibly damning for the Democratic Party and very valuable to the GOP and Trump supporters. To say we are shocked by this audio is an understatement. We already knew the Democrats had a plan to rig the 2018 elections, but now we have the plan straight from the horse's mouth. But to fully understand the audio, we need to go over the backstory. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats are desperate like they have never been before. The election of Donald Trump ripped reality right out from under them. Trump is hell-bent on draining the swamp, which is made up of Democrats and establishment Republicans. The never-Trump politicians like Jeff Flake and John McCain are examples of swamp creatures who are also GOP and often referred to as rhinos or Republicans in name only. And it seems, according to this article, that the Democratic Party is much more organized and savvy rather than their rhino counterparts based on the secret audio. The DCCC, which is the organization that fundraises and helps Democrat candidates, has decided their candidates in 2018 must appear more conservative. So the extreme left candidates will have to morph into what they call centrists. This is just to get elected, but it tells us that they recognize that to win, they will have to mimic many of President Trump's policies and positions. The damning part exposed in the audio coming up is how they are handpicking the candidates they will groom to win and are threatening all other candidates to get out of the race. Obviously, even if the candidates are popular and the people that are voting in the district want them in office. This secretly taped audio recording released here for the first time reveals how senior Democratic officials have worked to crush competitive primaries and steer political resources, money, and other support to hand-picked candidates in key races across the country long before the party publicly announced a preference.
Before we go any further on that, Crow is the favorite, in no small part, Congressman Hoyer, because the DCCC not only put its finger on the scale, but started jumping on the scale very early on. And I'm born and raised a Democrat. I mean, it's undemocratic to have a small elite select someone and then try to rig the primary against the other people running. And that is basically what's been happening.
I hear you, and I disagree.
But you were part of that process as well.
Absolutely.
You said
absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
I've been at this a long time.
Yeah.
When I said you need to get in strong, hard, and early, you disagree with me. You know, obviously, your choice.
You guys are shoveling money at him.
I'm going to continue.
You're going to continue to do it?
We are going to continue to do it. And the reason why we're going to do it is because a decision was made to focus. It was clear that was our policy and our hope that we could early on try to come to an agreement on a candidate that we thought could win the general, and to give that candidate all the help we could give them so that we would have a unified effort going into a general election.
Which means, effectively, Congressman Hoyer, I'm running a campaign against Crow and against you and against the DCCC because you guys are on Crow's side.
Yeah. Frankly, that happens in life all the time.
Representative Hoyer sounds like a mafia boss giving a Democratic candidate, Levy Tillman, two choices. First, he continues to run in Colorado's 6th district race against their picked Jason Crow. Tillman better not say anything negative at all about this opponent Crow during the campaign. This is ridiculous. How can you run a campaign and not address your opponent's weak points? The other option Congressman Hoyer gives is what they want. Get out of the race now. This is exactly what happened in the 2016 primary when the DNC backed Hillary Clinton, basically screwing over Bernie Sanders. Now the Democrats are rigging the election again on all planes, in all places, and besides threatening candidates, they are going to try to steal Trump voters by running candidates that seem conservative, but they are all just elected and will implement the radical leftist agenda and push for Trump's impeachment eventually. And according to this report, Nancy Pelosi, who has a screw loose, we all know this, actually admitted to this plan and is on record agreeing with rigging the election. I don't see anything inappropriate in what Mr. Hoyer was engaged in conversation about, Pelosi told reporters at her weekly news conference. This report by Politico, if the realities of life is that some candidates can do better in the general election than others, then that's a clear-eyed conversation that we should be having, unquote. Well, sure, some candidates can do better than others, but should the voters decide? Now here's why the Democrats in charge want this guy, Jason Crow. According to The Intercept, Jason Crow is a corporate lawyer at the powerhouse Colorado firm Holland and Hart and an Army veteran. Clearly, the Democrats will play up this service and his service, knowing Trump voters back the military. Jason Crow will probably be pro-Second Amendment, but I am sad to say he is already bought and paid for by the swamp. And it looks like the biggest swamp creatures inside the DNC are going to own every Democratic candidate that wins. They are rigging the primaries so their Manchurian candidates get the nod. Most of those candidates will appear right-center or center-right, hoping to dupe Trump supporters to get their vote. The current President Donald Trump got elected because he wasn't part of the Washington District of Columbia establishment. He owed no favors, funding his own campaign. The Democratic Party is the epitome of the swamp, with party bosses rigging the primaries because they desperately want the majority in the House so they can start the Trump impeachment. Well, as Thomas Jefferson said,
this is a Fox News alert. A bombshell report tonight on alleged physical abuse of multiple women by New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, so-called champion of choice, and the report is getting stunning reaction almost instantly. Trace Gallagher following the story live from our Los Angeles newsroom. Trace?
Shannon, the New York Attorney General initially tried to push back, but the allegations were ugly and damning, and within a few hours, Eric Schneiderman had resigned his office. 2 of the 4 women accusing Schneiderman of sexual misconduct publicly identified themselves. 2 did not. But all of them paint a similar portrait of a man who they claim drinks heavily and engages in physical and mental abuse before, during, and after sex. One of the women describes being in Schneiderman's Upper West Side apartment in Manhattan following a night out, saying he backed her up to the bed and, quote, all of a sudden he just slapped me open-handed and with great force across the face, landing the blow directly onto my ear. She claims Schneiderman accused her of scratching him, telling her that hitting an officer of the law is a felony. Before resigning, Schneiderman released a statement saying, quote, in the privacy of intimate relationships, I have engaged in role-playing and other consensual sexual activity. I have not assaulted anyone. I have never engaged in non-consensual sex, which is a line I would not cross. But the woman who claims he slapped her across the face says, quote, I want to make it absolutely clear this was under no circumstances a sex game gone wrong. This did not happen while we were having sex. A Sri Lankan woman says Schneiderman called her his, quote, brown slave. and wanted her to call him master. She, too, says the abuse was not role-playing. Though Schneiderman's ex-wife, Jennifer Cunningham, has now weighed in, saying, quote, these allegations are completely inconsistent with the man I know, who has always been someone of the highest character, outstanding values, and a loving father. It's interesting to note that in 2013, Donald Trump tweeted, quote, Weiner is gone, Spitzer is gone.